All right. Text 19, first canto. Let's see how long the purport is. Yeah, you can read the purport. I'll read the verse. Vayam tuna viprityama uttama shloka vikrame yach trinvatam rasa gyanam svadu svadu pade pade. Synonyms. Vayam, we, too, but not viprityame, shall be at rest, uttama shloka, the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by transcendental prayers, vikrame, adventures, yet which, srinvatam, by continuous hearing, rasa, humor, jnanam, those who are conversant with, svadu, relishing, svadu, palatable, pade, pade, at every step. Translation, we never tire of hearing of the transcendental pastimes of the personality of Godhead, who is glorified by hymns and prayers. Those who have developed a taste for transcendental relationships with him relish hearing of his pastimes at every moment.
The purport. There is a great difference between mundane stories, fiction, or history, and the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. The histories of the whole universe contain references to the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord. The Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and the Puranas are histories of bygone ages recorded in connection with the pastimes of the incarnations of the Lord, and therefore remain fresh even after repeated readings. For example, anyone who may read the Bhagavad Gita or the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam repeatedly throughout his whole life, and yet find in them new light of information. Mundane news is static, whereas transcendental news is dynamic, inasmuch as the spirit is dynamic and matter is static. Those who have developed a taste for understanding the transcendental subject matters are never tired of hearing such narrations. One is quickly satiated by mundane activities, but no one is satiated by transcendental or devotional activities. Uttanama Sloka indicates that literature which is not meant for nuisance, mundane literature, is in the mode of darkness or ignorance, whereas transcendental literature is quite different. Transcendental literature is above the mode of darkness, and its light becomes more luminous with progressive reading and realization of the transcendental subject matters. The so-called liberated people are never satiated by the repetition of the words Aham Brahmasami. Did I say that right?
Aham Brahmasmi, yeah, that's correct.
Such artificial realization of Brahman becomes hackneyed.
Hackneyed, yeah.
Yeah, hackneyed. And so to relish real pleasure, they turn to the narrations of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Those who are not so fortunate turn to altruism and worldly philanthropy. Is that how you pronounce that?
Philanthropy.
Philanthropy. This means that Mayade philosophy is mundane, whereas the philosophy of the Bhagavad Gita and the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is transcendental.
Yeah, it never gets old. It's like something in your refrigerator, it'll get old for a while, it'll get old and moldy, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam never gets old. I mean, one time Prabhupada was in his room in Mexico City, and Hridayananda Goswami was his personal servant at that time. He was standing outside the door, guarding his room. And Prabhupada called him in the room. He said, Prabhupada was sitting on his bed reading his own book, his Bhagavatam. And he asked Hridayananda to come in. He came in, and Prabhupada said, "Have you read these books?" And Hridayananda said, "Yes." So Prabhupada read the books. And Prabhupada said, "Aren't they wonderful?" Prabhupada wrote the book, right?
Yes.
that he is getting so much, relishing so much pleasure from reading the Bhagavatam that he wrote. I mean, it's not him writing it, really. I mean, when he's writing, it's actually, he says it's his spiritual master and Krishna that's writing the book. You know, he's just like taking down the dictation. But even he was like so overwhelmed by how good it was that he never tired of reading it. Text 20. Kritavan Kila Karmani Raha Sahara Mena Keshava Ati Martyani Bhagavan Guda Kapata Manusa. Synonyms. Kritavan, done by Kila, what? Karmani, acts. Saha, along with Ramena, Balaram, Keshava, Sri Krishna. Ati Martyani, superhuman. Bhagwan, the personality of Godhead. Guda, masked as. Kapata, apparently Manusha, human being. Translation: Lord Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, along with Balaram, played like a human being, and so masked, he performed many superhuman acts.
The purport. The purport is the doctrines of. Can you go up a little bit? Oh, there we go.
Anthropomorphism.
There we go. Anthropomorphism and zoomorphism are never applicable to Shri Krishna or the personality of Godhead. The theory that a man becomes God by dint of penance and austerities is very much rampant nowadays, especially in the India. Since Lord Rama, Lord Krishna, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were detected by the sages and saints to be the personality of Godhead, as indicated in revealed scriptures, many unscrupulous men have created their own incarnations. The process of concocting an incarnation of God has become an ordinary business, especially in Bengal. Any popular personality with a few traits of mystic powers will display some feat of jugglery and easily become an incarnation of God by popular vote. Lord Sri Krishna was not that type of incarnation. He was actually the personality of Godhead from the very beginning of his appearance. He appears before his so-called mother as four-armed Vishnu. Then at the request of the mother, he became like a human child and at once left her for another devotee at Goluka. I think it's called Gokula, where he was accepted as the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mata. Similarly, Sri Baladeva, the counterpart of Lord Sri Krishna, was also considered a human child born of another wife of Sri Vasudeva. In Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that his birth and deeds are transcendental, that anyone who is fortunate in it, as to know the transcendental nature of his birth deeds, will at once become liberated and eligible to return to the kingdom of God. So knowledge of the transcendental nature of the birth and deeds of Lord Sri Krishna is sufficient for liberation. In the Bhagavatam, the transcendental nature of the Lord is described in 9 cantos. And in the 10th canto, his specific pastimes are taken up. All this becomes known as one reading of this literature progresses. It is important to note here, however, that the Lord exhibited his divinity even from the lap of his mother, that his deeds are all superhuman. He lifted up Govindra Hill at the age of 7. And that all these acts definitely prove him to be actually the supreme personality of Godhead, yet due to his mystic covering, he was always accepted as an ordinary human child by his so-called father and mother and other relatives. Whenever some Herculean task was performed by him, the father and the mother took it otherwise and they remained satisfied with unflinching parental love for their son. As such, the sages of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Wait, how do you pronounce that word name again? How do you pronounce that word? Shit.
Naima Sharanya.
Yeah, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Describe him as apparently resembling a human being, but actually he is the supreme almighty personality of Godhead.
Yeah, whenever Krishna would do something extraordinary, like one time Krishna ate dirt, and all his friends were accusing him of eating dirt. And he said, I haven't eaten dirt. They're just telling lies against me. And so Mother Yashoda said, okay, well, open your mouth and we'll see if you've eaten dirt. And so Krishna opened his mouth, and Mother Yashoda saw the entire cosmic manifestation in his mouth, and all the demigods and all the living entities and all the continents and the oceans and the sky and the planetary systems, and herself with Krishna in the Vrindavan. And so then she was thinking, am I dreaming? No. Am I crazy? No. But anyway, she looked at Krishna and she just wanted to feed him her breast milk. And so she just got bewildered by Krishna's, I would call it yogamaya potency, bewilders even his devotees that have obvious evidence that he's something abnormal, but they don't care about that. They just think he's his loving child. They just want to take care of him. She wants to protect him and feed him. And so that's what she did. And she forgot all about that incident, even though she knew it was, at the time that she was a little bit bewildered and taken aback, but she forgot it all as soon as she looked at his face, completely covered over by Krishna's internal potency. And there's two potencies. There's the Mahamaya and the Yogamaya. Yogamaya is the internal potency, that which, covers his glorious, majesty, so that people won't be too afraid of him and then they won't think he's God, they'll just think he's the most wonderful boy, and they'll just accept him like that. That's how Krishna rolls.
Jai. Definitely.
Text 21. Kalamagatam Atnaya Shmite Smin Vishnave Vayam Asina Dirga Satrena Katayam Sakshana Hare. Synonyms: Kalim, the age of coral, the age of Kali, the iron age of coral. Agatam, having arrived, Agnaya, knowing this, Kshetre, in this tract of land, Asmin, in this Vishnave, especially meant for the devotee of the Lord. Vayam, we, Asina, seated, Durga, prolonged, Satrena, the performance of sacrifices, Katayam, in the words of Sakshna, with time at our disposal, Hare, of the personality of Godhead. Translation: knowing well that the age of Kali has already begun, we are assembled here at this holy place to hear at great length the transcendental message of Godhead, and in this way perform sacrifice.
The purport: the age of Kali is not at all suitable for self-realization, as was Satya Yoga, the Golden Age, or Treta Yoga, or the Dvarka Yoga, the Silver and Copper Ages. For self-realization, the people is in Satya Yoga, living a lifetime of 100,000 years, were able to perform prolonged meditation. And in Treta Yoga, when the duration of life was 10,000 years, self-realization was attained by performance of great sacrifice. And in the Dvarka Yoga, when the duration of life was 1,000 years, self-realization was attained by worship of the Lord. But in Kali Yuga, the maximum duration of life being 100 years only, and that combined with various difficulties. The recommended process of self-realization is that of hearing and chanting of the holy name, fame, and pastimes of the Lord. The sages of Naimisharana began this process in a place meant specifically for the devotees of the Lord. They prepared themselves to hear the pastimes of the Lord over a period of 100,000 years, 1,000 years, sorry. By the example of these sages, one should learn that regular hearing and recitation of the Bhagavatam is the only way for self-realization. Other attempts are simply a waste of time, for they do not give any tangible results. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu preached this system of the Bhagavata Dharma, and he recommended that all those who were born in India should take the responsibility of broadcasting the messages of the Lord Sri Krishna, primarily the message of the Bhagavad Gita. And when one is well established in the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, he can take up the study of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam for further enlightenment into self-realization. I totally agree. This is totally deep on this one. It really makes a lot of sense.
You know, you and I met at the 50th anniversary of the first Bhagavad Dharma discourse in New Vrindavan last year.
Yeah.
That's happened in 1972, and it was the first Bhagavad Dharma discourse, first Pandal program in America. Pandal means a large gathering, and specifically Bhagavad Dharma is a prolonged recitation of the Bhagavat, the Bhagavat, either Bhagavad Gita or Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. There's a person Bhagavat, and then there's a book Bhagavat, and those two are pretty much the same. But that's, you have to hear from a long time for a long time, and Prabhupada established that, and he established a lot of things in New Vrindavan. He had the first Bhagavad Dharma discourse. He had the first cow, first farm community. There's a lot of firsts going on in New Vrindavan, as Vaishnav Maharaj explained. Text 22. Tvam na sandarshito datra dustaram nistitri tirsatam kalam sattva hanam pumsam karna dhara ivarnavam. Synonyms. Tvam, your goodness, na, unto us, sandarshita, meeting, datra, by providence, dustaram, insurmountable, nistitirasatam, those desiring to cross over Kalim, the age of Kali, sattva haram, that which deteriorates the good qualities, pumsam, of a man, karnadar, captain, eva, as, Aranam, the ocean. Translation. We think that we have met your goodness by the will of providence, just so that we may accept you as captain of the ship for those who desire to cross the difficult ocean of Kali, which deteriorates all the good qualities of a human being. They used to have a song in this kind of, it goes, we got a good ship, we got a good captain, Prabhupada. It's like, the Prabhupada is the captain of the ship, and the boat is this human body. It can take us over the ocean of the age of Kali, which is an ocean of faults, and the favorable winds are the breezes of the Vedas. And everybody else that is not on that ship is just going to perish because they don't have a captain, they don't have any guidance, and they don't have a rudder in their ship. And what happens to a boat when they don't have any of those things? It just ends up on the rocks. And so without the guiding influence of a spiritual teacher and the Vedas and a good boat, this whole civilization is heading for disaster. Anyway, go ahead and read the purport.
The purport is, the age of the Kali is very dangerous for the human being. The human life is simply meant for self-realization. But due to this dangerous age, men have completely forgotten the aim of life. In this age, the lifespan was gradually decreased. People will gradually lose their memory, finer sentiments, strength, and better qualities. A list of the anomalies of for the age is given in the 12th canto of this work. And so this age is very difficult for those who want to utilize this life for self-realization. The people are so busy with sense gratification that they completely forget about self-realization. Out of madness, they frankly say that there is no need for self-realization because they do not realize that this brief life but a moment of our great journey towards self-realization. The whole system of education is geared to the sense gratification, and if a learned man thinks it over, he sees that the children of this age are being intentionally sent to the slaughterhouses of so-called education. Oh, that's true. Learned men, therefore, must be cautious of this age, and if they are at all want to cross over the dangerous ocean of Kali, they must follow the footsteps of the sages of Naimisharana and accept Sri Suda Goswami or his bona fide representative as the captain of the ship. The ship is the message of the Lord Sri Krishna in the shape of the Bhagavad Gita or the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam.
Yeah. Devananda Pandit, the guy that plays guitar at the kirtans.
Yeah.
He wrote this song called A Dog Without a Master. It's like a blues song. It's got a slide guitar. It goes, like a dog without a master and a ship without a captain aboard. Like a dog without a master and a ship without a captain aboard. You be living in illusion till the day you bow down to the Lord.
No, really.
Yeah, it's like, and also, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that Prabhupada's spiritual master's father.
Yeah.
He said education makes an ass out of the soul, because you're on the mental platform and you're not really getting messages from the spiritual world, and so it turns one into it just studying all this stuff that has nothing to do with Krishna. It just for the bodily maintenance of your life and working for money and stuff just turns one into an ass.
It's true. It's totally true. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, Bhaktivinoda, he was such a great spiritual master. Him and his son Bhaktisiddhanta, of course, and of course Bhaktisiddhanta, his disciple, spread Krishna consciousness all over the world with Prabhupada. And so, we have to follow these captains, these great, leaders that can actually lead us across the ocean. And see, here's the thing. The boat of the Vedas is really cool because, the spiritual masters leads us across the ocean and then we're on the other side. Then you leave it there for other people to cross. It's there all the time. It's always there. He leaves the boat for other people. So it's really, if you don't take advantage of it, if you don't take advantage of this ocean of love of God that Lord Chaitanya has inundated this entire world with, you're not going to be delivered for millions of kalpas. You know what a kalpa is?
Actually, no, I don't.
Kalpa is one day of Brahma, which is like 4.23 billion years.
Whoa.
So this is like a miniature age, this age of golden age right now that we're living in for the next 10,000 years. We should take advantage of Lord Chaitanya's mercy so that we can float in the ocean above the waves and take shelter of the captain of the ship and float in the ocean of love of God. Otherwise, we're doomed. Let's see here. Text 23. Bruhi Yogeshware Krishna Brahmane Dharma Varmani Svam Kastam Adhunot Pete Dharma Kam Sharanam Gata. Synonyms. Bruhi, please tell. Yogeshwari, O Lord of all mystic powers. Krishna, Lord Krishna. Brahmani, the absolute truth. Dharma, religion. Varmani, protector. Swam, own. Kashtam, abode. Adhuna, nowadays. Upete, having gone away. Dharma, religion. Come, unto whom? Sharanam, shelter. Gata, gone. Translation. Since Sri Krishna, the absolute truth, the master of all mystic powers, has departed for his own abode, please tell us to whom the religious principles have now gone for shelter.
The purport is that essentially religion is prescribed codes enunciated by the personality of Godhead himself. Whenever there is gross misuse or neglect of the principles of religion, the Supreme Lord himself appears to restore religious principles. This is stated in the Bhagavad Gita. Here is the sages of Nayasarama are inquiry are inquiring about these principles. Hold on. Sorry, as people were blowing up my phone for a second. The reply to this question is given later. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is the transcendental sound representation of the personality of Godhead, and thus is the full representation of transcendental knowledge and religious principles.
That's the end.
And then thus is the end of the purport of the first canto of the first chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled Questions by the Sages.
Awesome. So we got through the first chapter.
I know, that's great. That was a big chapter for chapter 1.
Yeah. Bhakti Siddhanta, Prabhupada's spiritual master, in the first verse, I'll show you the first verse again. This verse here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya Yato Navayad Itaras Chartavse Svar Vignasarat Teni Brahmahida Adikavaye Moyanti Asaya Tejovari Midam Yata Vinamayo Yatra Tri Sargo Mrisha Damna Svena Sada Nirastra Kuakam Satyam Paramam Dimahi. He gave a class on that verse, this verse here. You know how long he talked on it for?
I think you mentioned, I think it was a month.
Yeah, a month.
That's a lot. That's big. That's big.
Because there's so much in this verse. Every single word of this verse has so much meaning that you can't hardly get to the end of it. So not only is it new and ever fresh, but it's also loaded with meaning. There's one verse in the Bhagavatam called the not chapter shloka, but the Atmaram verse. The Atmaram verse was explained by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, who is like a scholar. And he asked the Sarvabhauma to explain it first. And then Lord Chaitanya, he asked him to explain it. And so he did. And he explained it in like 64 different ways without even touching on the explanation that Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya did. So it's like, only the Supreme Personality of Godhead can make that kind of detailed explanation from every single point of view. I mean, he could say one point of view, and then he could like completely defeat himself and establish another point of view. I mean, that's how smart people were back then, 500 years ago in India. They had competition, they had debates, they had actual scholars that could, say certain things. And then, it's not like nowadays, people don't even know what they're talking about, and they don't even know when they're defeated. That's called hermeneutics. You ever heard of that word, hermeneutics?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, that means like the especially in scripture, you have all this reason and argument and logic, and a person should know when he's been defeated, and then he'll accept it. But nowadays, people don't even know what they're talking about, and they don't know if they've been defeated or not. So now it's necessary to present things in a very clear way, in a very forceful way, and so that people can understand it by, strong, clear language, because otherwise it's very difficult to open the eyes of people, because they don't even know what they're so interested in their own opinions that they can't accept any other way. Therefore Prabhupada said we have to fight with these people that don't want to see the truth. Just like an owl, he said, an owl doesn't see the sun because it always has its eyes closed during the day. And Prabhupada said you can say to the owl, we could say, Mr. Owl, open your eyes and see the sun. It's the daytime, the sun is there. He said, no, there's no sun. So we have to fight with these owls. It's the owl civilization.
It is.
Do you have any questions on this chapter at all?
Actually, one do quit. Actually, there is one besides. Sorry, there's a helicopter flying over my house. I get that a lot.
It's probably like some kind of shooting going on or something.
Yeah, or some hospital, or actually sometimes there's planes, or there's all kinds of stuff going on with what
You
goes
got
up.
the McKees Rocks Hospital there, right? Or
McKeesport Hospital.
Yeah, UPMC, right?
Yeah, and then there's sometimes all kinds of helicopters. But besides that, even besides what I'm hearing with this helicopter, it's really a dark age, like, because I even chant 2 times. And sometimes my question is even though you chant, you may want to be on a spiritual platform, but you do know that you're in a material platform. Like I said, even though you might be depressed, as long as you believe in Krishna, is that all that matters? Like even if you feel like you're like, this is just temporary. What I'm feeling is temporary. As long as you believe in Krishna, the question
Well, it's not really a matter of belief. Actually, we have to surrender to Krishna.
Okay.
Surrender means something more than belief. Surrender means you actually grab on to Krishna's feet and let him lift you up. When you take his point of view, instead of just being like Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, and therefore one should not be disturbed by the temporary appearance and disappearance of happiness and distress, because these things are just temporary. But when we take shelter of Krishna, we're actually getting his knowledge and getting his point of view. And believe me, Krishna is not interested in what we're worried about. He's interested in things that are much more important.
Right.
It's like an ant. An ant is busy building his anthill, and some animal or some human being kicks the anthill, and it's like, but all the ants are like scattering here and there. They're going everywhere. They're freaking out because their entire life's work has been destroyed.
Right.
But a human being doesn't really think that much about it. And so we're like ants in this universe, and Krishna has bigger things to worry about. Everybody's worried about who's going to win the baseball game or something, and they're praying to God that this team wins or that team wins. Krishna, he's not worried about those kind of things, what we're worried about, because he's worried about, playing with his spiritual consorts and